today's video, I do something stupid, so you don't have to. And then I repair that bonehead move. Now let's see if you can guess where I messed up. Let's review what we did on the last video. So in the last video, it was all about the metallic finish. So we laid down a gloss black coat, and then we put down our different A-stand coats, and then we got into an oil layer to kind of give it a patina, and then we went to aqua gloss. So at this point I'm ready to do some masking. So I'm just using masking tape to just make some lines for the anti-glare panels. And for that I'm just using Tamiya Olive Drab in their lacquer lineup. To create a sun faded effect, I'm using that same masking material from the previous video, and I'm using a lighter shade of the olive drab and laying that on. Now with that, it looks maybe a little bit too splotchy, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna come back with that same color and just kind of blend it in a little bit so it's not quite so stark. Now for the blue stripes, once again using Tamiya LP colors, and I've got it thinned down a little bit with some white. At this point maybe it's a little bit too thin. That means we're gonna have a little more layers, and maybe I'm gonna add a little bit more dark blue to it. To mask up the canopy, I've got the art scale canopy masks for the inside and the outside. Now for the fun part, I scanned the decal set into my computer, and then I added it into the Silhouette Studio and just traced the lines for it to make my own masks where I thought the fidelity could work. For the tail numbers, I'm using NATO Black. Definitely my favorite kind of black because it's not quite black, it's got a little bit of gray to it. Now for the part that you've all been waiting for. I'm gonna start peeling off the masks. And this one so far looks pretty good. So you can already see a spot where the masking tape did a bit of damage. Yeah, pretty good. You can see a little bit of tape peel with that. Now it is interesting, as that layer is coming off, you can kind of see where the sheen is different when you remove the aqua gloss layer. So aqua gloss, yeah, definitely does change the reflectivity of that paint. So not too shabby. There's a little bit of touch up that needs to be done on the bottom there. Now to paint the inside of the canopy, I'm also using that same NATO Black from Tamiya. Now for the white portion of the insignia, I'm using MRP white. It's one of my favorite whites. Got really good coverage without kind of getting cloudy and thick. Now on this build I'm doing things a little bit differently with my masking material. I'm using Oracal 813, where I've used 810 in the past and a few others. Could that be the reason that our tape is lifting the paint? Now I'm getting into that same mix of blue that I was using earlier, and yeah, it's coming out a little bit light, so we're gonna use this in darker colors to kind of create a little bit more of a distressed look. And at this point, it seems to be peeling off pretty well. I'm not really seeing any gigantic chunks coming off. Now we can start to see the effect of modeling past your bedtime. So we can see it just start to lift up all that white paint and go back down to the silver layer. And running into the same thing on the belly of this aircraft. And at this point, I'm probably not going to be doing much of a voiceover, because I'd probably just let out my frustrations, and, you know, this will become demonetized.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
So let's test this out. Could it be aqua gloss versus gauzy? Could it be my new stencil material? Or could it be that oil weathering that I did before putting on the aqua gloss? And there's our culprit. So is the oil weathering, which makes perfect sense. You know, oil doesn't like really a lot of things to stick to it, so it's going to make that paint lift up pretty well. The aqua gloss doesn't really have anything to bind into, and so it's going to lift up. Look how much comes off on this stencil material. The other thing too that I did after this to just make sure I'm running things a little bit better is I did detack the stencil material, but even still, it was really the oil weathering that really made all this disaster come to us. So to fix it, I'm polishing down those high points, and then we're gonna just reapply paint. But at this point, what I probably should have done is just grab maybe even some permanent masking material and just tear up paint basically, and then redo it. But I don't know, in the end it did come out okay. Just had to do a lot of different touch-up work to go over all those different screw-ups. So you can see I've switched over to the Oracal 810, but I don't think it really made too much of a difference. I think it's more about the stretchiness that it does. So I still detacked, but for the white, I'm switching now to SMS White Primer, because now I have to build up a little bit of layers with the edges of that paint where it ripped off, and getting a little bit creative. And I think this is also probably about midnight as well, so getting a little bit desperate as well. Also, I failed to mention, I was trying to get this done in time for the Salt Lake City show. Looking back, I probably just should have taken my time, being a little more methodical, and not try to be under the gun, so to speak. I probably wouldn't have been running into these mistakes, but then we wouldn't have this video for your viewing pleasure, where we are going to show me some humility. So with each masking job, we're getting a little bit better and better, but you can see still we gotta do some more work. Well, let me know what you think. Did I fix this problem properly? Would there have been a better way? Do you think I should have just tried to use masking tape to just kind of rip off those layers so I go back down to the L-clad and have a little bit better base to get to? Or would you want me to go maybe full on acid attempt and just like completely wipe all the paint and start all over? So now I'm adding a layer of aqua gloss to give me a little bit more protection. Not sure if it really is doing much of anything, but you know, it makes me feel a little bit better. Now I've got a weird effect in all those areas where the tape peeled and maybe it got down to the ultra high shine layer, and now there's a difference. So I'm coming in with some different A-stands. I think at this point I'm doing airframe aluminum to just kind of touch up that one point. But then the high-speed silver is going to cover up some of my sins. So some areas had a pretty big chunk taken out of it, so I wanted to build it up a little bit more, add some black paint, and then we're going to polish that until we can't really notice that anymore. Now I've added the stencils off camera because it's boring, let's be honest. But what I'm doing is you can see definitely the decal edges, so I'm blending it in with some aqua gloss. That's a lot of aqua gloss, so I'm cleaning it up here. But just try to blend in those areas so it doesn't look like an actual decal is there. So this is the end of part 3. Hopefully you had some fun making fun of me at my expense, but lesson learned for everybody, I would assume. In the next video we're gonna go over weathering, and so you can see me adding that nice panel wash that's super satisfying. Make sure that you're subscribed and notified so you know when that will drop.